Maintaining a Balanced Ecosystem in Your Law Firm, episode 137. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the electrolytes, the lifeblood of your law firm. What the heck am I talking about? Well, I'm going to start with a story of something that we're going through here in my household, and that's going to then frame the picture for this conversation. It's going to make a lot more sense for you. Before I jump into that, if this is your first time listening to this episode, I'd love it if I got you as a subscriber. Hit that subscribe button. You'll get notified every time we go live, every time we release a new episode of this show. And we do that weekly, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesday is a solo episode, just me talking behind the mic, just like this time. And Thursdays, I bring in stellar guest interviews. And I'm really excited about the guests we've had so far in 2020. And we've got a great lineup for you to round out the rest of the year. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. Now, my dog, his name is Rascal Flatts. Yes, we're country fans. And we rescued him when he was 5, and he's now 12. And we recently found that he had abnormal lab values. His calcium was elevated. Now, it's not normal for a dog's calcium to be elevated, and it's usually indicative of one of two things, either some sort of lymphoma, a cancer, or a usually benign tumor in the parathyroid gland, which produces a parathyroid hormone, which controls the calcium levels. So when one of those glands, there's 4 of them, when one of those glands becomes enlarged, it produces excess parathyroid hormones, and when that level increases, it increases the calcium in the bloodstream. Well, one of the easiest tests to determine which is the problem is to check the PTH levels, the parathyroid hormone levels. If they're elevated, then that's usually the problem. And with Rascal, they are elevated. And the problem is that in an ultrasound, we can't find which of the glands is enlarged. And that has taken us down this road of a wait-and-see approach. But as we're waiting and his calcium is increasingly getting higher, it's creating different problems. Decreased appetite, more achiness when he's walking, which looks like more slipping when going up and down steps, things like that. Also, increased drinking, which means frequent urination, but that by itself is not really a problem, especially with our setup. We have a electric doggy door. We have a fenced-in yard. So he's kind of like free to roam, free to take care of his business. But it's all of these things added up together that he's out of whack, right? And it needs to be rectified, because if it doesn't, it can get far worse. As a matter of fact, it has been getting progressively worse, and his appetite decreased to the point where he was no longer eating any dog food, and I was cooking chicken and turkey for him. So the doctor went to the next step, which is an infusion that will increase the calcium uptake into the bone, and therefore decrease his calcium level in his bloodstream, which would temporarily give a reprieve to the symptoms of the elevated calcium, and also would not affect the overdrive of the parathyroid gland, and therefore the glands should continue to enlarge until the point where we can see that it is enlarged. And from there, we can, hopefully surgically remove the one bad gland. So right now we're in this wait and see approach. He just had the first infusion, which caused more problems because now all of a sudden he's limping one of his legs. And we don't know what's wrong with it. He's holding, that leg up. So now we have him on pain medicine. And it's just this ever evolving mess. And I don't want to go into all the detail for you, but the reason I'm giving you the details is because as I was thinking about this situation, and I'm also a paramedic. I haven't spoken about that in a while, but our human body is the same way. There's so many different chemical balances that need to be kept, and our bodies do an amazing job of doing that. But when you hear somebody got dehydrated, like they passed out or they got sick because they got dehydrated, what that means is that there's a chemical imbalance in their body, and it doesn't mean that they don't have enough water. It means that they don't have enough of some of the chemicals, usually sodium. The different things that control different parts of the body, like calcium has a lot to do with the cardiovascular system, and sodium has a lot to do with the normal function of all the cells in our body. So we need all these different levels, our hormone levels and our electrolyte levels, to be normal for us to exist normally. And when somebody's levels are out of whack, that causes all kinds of interesting behaviors. We're not ourselves. We don't act normally. And as I thought about this situation, I realized that there's a lot of parallels between whether it's our pet or our own body or our family members. There's a lot of parallels between this amazing balance that needs to be kept and what you need to do with your law firm. And that's what I want to focus on today. Is I basically want to talk about the different electrolytes of the law firm. Like, what are the main, yardsticks that we can look at the law firm and say, if you have too much of this, it causes this problem. If you have too little of this, it causes that problem. And I made a list of 5 of these, and there's definitely more, but there's 5 main ones that I want to cover today. And I'm just going to run through them and share with you my view on what happens if you have too few or too many or too little or too much of each of these things. And when you start to look at the big picture and you start to say, wow, that makes sense. So now I look at this, well, suddenly you need to have this equilibrium. You need to have this perfect dance between these different things in order for your law firm to be healthy. And then you'll start to realize what a daunting task you have as a law firm owner to be able to maintain this balance, this chemical balance for your law firm. But like with anything, knowledge is key. And knowing that you have this issue, knowing that you have this task, knowing that this is something that you need to pay attention to is going to make you a better law firm owner. So what are these 5 things? Well, I'm going to start with the first one, which is leads. Yes, when a new potential client comes to your door, it's a lead, which we hopefully are going to take through and to the sales process, make a sale, and make them a customer, a client. So what happens if we have too few leads? Well, that's obvious, right? If you don't have enough leads coming through the door, you end up with a lack of sales. You don't have enough sales because you need to convert the leads to sales. And we're probably not converting 100% of our leads into sales. So if we need to make 10 sales in a month to have a healthy law firm, and we need to bring in 40 leads to get 10 sales, well, then we need to have 40 leads a month. If you have less than 40, we're going to end up having less sales, which means that we're not going to make those goals. We're not going to make those numbers. So too few leads means a lack of sales. Now, what happens with too many leads? Now, you're probably thinking, well, that is a problem I'd love to have, and I don't see it as a problem. Well, let me explain. If you've ever been in this position, you're going to be shaking your head saying, yep, that's true. Well, if you have too many leads, what ends up happening is that your follow-up ends up falling apart. You don't do what you need to do to continue to follow up with those leads. And therefore, potential sales fall through the cracks. They end up not being made because you failed to follow up with that lead. And therefore, what ends up happening, what's the end result, is that you have a wasted effort acquiring leads. Now, whatever you're doing to get leads, whether it's writing a blog post and trying to rank with SEO, or getting behind a microphone of a podcast, or buying ad space, putting billboards up, hiring a marketing agency, whatever you're doing, it's either costing you time, money, or a combination of the two to bring those leads in. And when you turn around and look at it, every lead costs you a certain amount of time or a certain amount of money or a certain combination of those two. That's your cost per lead. So if you have too many leads coming in and therefore you are not effectively closing them into clients, what the net result is that you are increasing your cost per lead. You're wasting the effort acquiring leads, and therefore you are flushing time and money down the toilet. We don't want to be doing that. So too few leads is obviously a problem, but too many leads is also a problem. So now we see this is the first item, that leads is something that needs to have this magic space where it's not too few and it's not too many, and we're able to effectively handle those leads. Now, what is that equilibrium? What is that place? It's different for every law firm. It's different for every size law firm. It's different for the way you run your business. For example, one attorney might make $250 on a client. Another attorney might make $10,000 on a client. Well, obviously, the one who has $250 per client has to bring in a ton of clients in a month. They are a low-ticket, high-volume firm. The one who has to bring in $10,000 may only need to bring in one or two clients a month to be comfortable. They are a high-ticket, low-volume firm. Obviously, the quantity of leads that each one needs is going to be different. If you have a staff of 6 and it's not just you, then you need a ton more volume of leads coming in than somebody who's a solo. So you could see that this is different for every law firm, and you need to start to pay attention to that number so that you can see, what is my equilibrium? How many leads is too few? And how many leads would be too many? How many, even if it's not happening to you, what number would, when you hit that, you'd be over your capacity of ability to follow up and close those sales? So that's leads. Now we're going to go on to the second thing. Now you can guess what the second thing is, because what comes after leads? Yep, you guessed it, sales. So the second item is sales. What happens if you have too few sales? Well, that's easy. Lack of revenue. I don't have enough money coming in, and therefore, what is the end result of not having enough money coming in? I can't hire additional staff. I can't bring on a marketing agency. I can't pay for advertising and paid ads, whether it's online, whether it's billboard traffic, radio spots, Google pay-per-click, whatever it is. I don't have the funds to pay for those things because I don't have enough revenue coming in to cover that. Or if I'm a solo, I don't want to hire staff. I don't want to bring on a marketing agency. Well, I just don't bring home enough money. And therefore, I am working without getting paid for it, or working without getting paid enough. That's too few sales. Now, too many sales, yes, that can be a problem too. And the perfect example I have for that is a friend of mine makes a product for children, and she was humming along, making a small number of sales every month. That was kind of, like a hobby project with some money coming in. Well, her product got picked up by some really well-known YouTube vlogger and got mentioned, and suddenly sales started pouring in. Well, you can imagine that her capacity to fill, 100 orders a month was impossible to ramp up to fill thousands of orders per day. So that's a good problem to have, but it can hurt in the short term, right? And you can already imagine that there's a lot of people that she had to communicate with and say, hey, we got your order, but you're going to be waiting a little while for your product to come in because we have to have it manufactured. And then we have to have it distributed. And we don't have any of that set up because we weren't ready for you. Well, obviously, she wasn't going to tell them that, but that's essentially what needs to happen. Now, why am I drawing parallels between an e-commerce company and a law firm? It's the same thing. If you have capacity to handle 3 clients a month and you suddenly bring in 10, what's going to happen to the experience that those 10 clients have? And those numbers are examples. If you have capacity for 20 clients a month and you suddenly bring in 30, what is going to happen to the experience that those people are going to have? So when you bring in too many sales, what happens is you cannot provide a good solution to every single one of them. Their experience is degraded. It results in poor customer service. It results in potentially negative client outcomes, right? If the ball is dropped, you miss a court appearance, you miss a deadline because you were trying to juggle too many balls. And we've probably all been there. Many of us for sure have been there. Results in negative reviews online, which then further makes it difficult to make sales. And you don't even know how that's affecting you because you don't know how many people are not even calling you because of those negative reviews. So too many sales can have this adverse effect of all these things in your business. So here again, you see another thing that we need to have this perfect equilibrium. If we have too few sales, we don't have enough money coming in, it cripples us. If we have too many sales and we therefore can't deliver what we promised, that also cripples us. Now, you can stop too many sales by simply backing up the process and leaving them as too many leads and not closing them. So you can control this. But then that brings you back to the original problem that we just spoke about first, which is then you have too many leads and you have inefficient processes there. If the leads are there, then we need to quickly build up the pipeline so we can handle all these sales and not be wasting our efforts with the leads coming in. So once again, you got to pay attention. There's no perfect solution for anybody. You got to pay attention to this and you got to know what your limits are. You got to know what you need to bring in. You also have to know what your limits are. So what's next? Number 3, staff. Now, if you're a solo, then this all pertains to you too. If you have too few staff members, what that does is it creates a lack of time, and therefore it creates an increased stress level. So when you don't have enough people to do the work, and often if that's just you, like if you're a solo and it's just you, then it's just you. But then you understand this more than anybody. There's only so much time in the day, and you have to wear all the hats. But even if you have a staff of 10 and you're not wearing all the hats, but other people are wearing the hats, there can still be too few staff members. If you have a caseload that's too big, and therefore you don't have enough staff to put them all through it, or you don't have enough staff to service the marketing arm of your firm, whatever the case may be, too few staff members is going to mean that there's not enough time, there's not enough man hours available in your firm, which means somebody somewhere is working extra or your customers are feeling it. And what happens is with either one of them, if you're providing poor customer experiences or if your staff is overworked, that could be including yourself, it creates an increased stress level both in you and your staff members. Now, what happens when people are stressed? Well, they quit. So you can't quit your firm. I mean, you can close it down, but essentially if you're stressed, it's just going to affect your health. It's going to affect your mental well-being. It's going to affect your relationship with your family, and it's going to affect your ability to solve the problem and grow the firm. But if your staff is stressed, it's going to create increased turnover, which is going to further compound the problem because people are going to leave, and then you're going to be even more stressed, have less time, and it's a vicious cycle. So we don't want to be in the too few staff members. We want to make sure we're adequately staffed to handle the volume of work that we're doing. Well, you can, as you guessed it, you can have too many staff members as well. What happens if you have too many staff members? That seems like a good problem to have, right? Everything gets done quickly. Well, you would hope so. If you're running your firm well and you have good management capabilities, then you will make sure that everything is always on time and always early and things like that. But when you have too many staff members, what happens is, number one, you have a lack of profits because the profit margin is only so big. And if you're taking too much expense to produce the work, then that's going to eat into your profits. It's also going to create poor morale. The same way that too much work for a staff member creates poor morale, having too little work for a staff member also creates poor morale. People want to be busy. It doesn't seem that way. It seems counterintuitive, but the reality is that people, typically, hopefully, the ones that you're hiring, love what they do. They love their position. They don't want to be a firm owner like you. They want to be an attorney. They want to be a paralegal. They want to be a clerk. They want to be a marketing person. They want to be a front desk person. That's what they want to do. And if they're clocking in and clocking out 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, but they're only busy for 2 of those hours, 10 of those hours a week, they're going to feel like they're really not needed. Like they're just a boat anchor for you. They're going to feel badly, and that's going to decrease their morale. They're going to understand that the writing's on the wall. At some point, if they're not needed, they're going to be let go. They're going to have to look for another job. So they might go and look for another job early, and that's going to increase turnover. So what does increased turnover do? What does poor morale do? It increases the stress level, both for your staff and for you. So too many staff members, also a problem. Now, like anything, there's different ways to fix the problem. With too many staff members, we could fix it two ways. We can either reduce the staff count, right? We can consolidate positions and we can let somebody go or let multiple people go. Or we can increase the sales, increase the amount of work, and therefore increase how much we're using our staff and just don't bring on more staff members. And eventually we get to that equilibrium again. So there's many different ways, different faucets to turn on, different solutions to these things. But the key, again, what I want to make, the point I want to make today in this podcast is you got to pay attention to this stuff because we need everything to be in this equilibrium. I mean, we're in the middle of COVID-19 right now. What's the number one thing that they're trying to do in different places, in schools, besides for mask wearing, what are they doing? They're doing temperature checks. Why are they doing temperature checks? Our body maintains our temperature at a very specific level. And if we have a fever, it's indicative of illness. And therefore, the first sign that somebody could be positive for COVID actively is increased temperature. So that's why temperature checks are a very effective tool to at least limit the potential possibility that other people who are going to be in the vicinity of the person are not exposed or unnecessarily exposed to that risk. So the equilibrium that we maintain is really important, and we should be able to take our temperature. We should be able to easily check and see how are we doing. So you got to have a way to measure your leads, to measure your sales, to measure your staff efficiency. You got to have a way of measuring that. Otherwise, there's no way for you to know whether you're in equilibrium or not. There's two more. Number 4, technology. Too little technology. This one's obvious, right? Anybody who started implementing tech in their firm understands the amazing efficiency it creates, the amazing increased customer experience it gives. In the sales process, it allows you to not drop the ball during the sales process. It allows you to automate the follow-up. There's so much that can be done with technology to create efficiencies in the firm, to decrease the cost of what it costs to get something done, and to increase the customer experience. So what happens when you have too little technology? It creates inefficiency. It creates a greater cost to providing the service that you're providing, and it decreases your profitability. Well, the flip side is too much technology. Have you ever had too much technology in your firm? Most probably, every single one of you can shake your head and say yes. Why? Well, we hear about a piece of technology and we say, whoa, this thing is really, really cool. I need this for my firm. I'm going to sign up for it. It's only $20 a month per user. Well, when it's just you, it's $20 a month. You sign up for it, you have it, you're paying it, but you don't do it. You don't use it. You don't implement it. Then you bring on a staff member. Suddenly you need to pay for another seat. Bring in another staff member. You need to pay for another seat. Before you know it, $60, $80, $100 a month that you're paying for a piece of software that you're not using. So too much technology increases costs. It also can decrease productivity. How? If people need to go to multiple applications to do their work, if they need to flip between softwares in order to get their job done, if they need to look in multiple places to get the same information, that can decrease productivity. And also it can increase complexity, right? It becomes more complicated to onboard a new employee. It becomes more complicated to maintain. Each piece of software has its things, its glitches. You got to contact support. You got to try to figure out what's going on. Why isn't it working? And before you know it, you're like, oh my gosh, I need a full-time IT person. So too much technology can also be a bad thing for your firm. Now, to get to that point where it's too much technology is a bad thing for your firm, you got to probably be doing a lot of tech, which means that you're probably not spending enough time on the other things: leads, sales, staffing, customer service. So what's the point here? The point is that too much of a good thing, not so good. Too much of a bad thing, not so good either. So technology, too little, no good. Too much, also no good. You got to have an equilibrium when it comes to your technology. How do you know what your equilibrium is? Well, you know when the job is getting done. When you have a piece of software that is more work than it's worth, you got to be able to cut it out. You got to be able to say, this is not worth it. It's not working for us. We're going to cut it out. We're going to move on to something else, or we're not going to do this through software. We're going to do this manually. We're going to figure out how to create a process around this that does not rely on this piece of technology. Now, sometimes you don't have that option. Sometimes you got to deal with a bad product because it's your only option to get something done. And if that's the case, that's not what I'm referring to. But I think I've made my point when it comes to tech. Last but not least, number 5, money. Money. Okay, money. Too little, too much. Right away you're thinking, I don't think it's possible to have too much money. Well, we'll get there. Let's talk about too little first. If you have too little money, what can happen? Now, I'm sure that almost everybody listening to this has been at some point in their life in the position where they had too little money. And when that happens, you have an inability to grow. You can't hire staff. You can't hire a marketing agency. You can't spend money on advertising. You can't pay yourself more. You can't solve your personal problems that require money to solve, and therefore increases your stress level and therefore decreases your productivity at work. You cannot grow if you have too little money. You have an increased stress level if you have too little money, and it increases your costs, because what's the solution to too little money? Borrow some. And if you borrow money, you're going to be paying interest on that. And that's going to add to the cost of running your business, which is going to further spiral you into the I don't have money zone. So too little money is a bad thing. Now, too much money. I know that right away off the bat, you're like, well, I wish I had this problem, or I've been there and that's a good problem to have. The answer is yes, it's a good problem to have. But at the same time, smart people who become wealthy, they don't have cash sitting around in the bank. They don't have extra money that they don't know what they're going to do with. They have a plan of what they're going to do with that money. So if you don't deploy your capital, if you have an inefficient deployment of capital, essentially what that is doing is it's increasing your cost by not bringing in additional income that it should have been bringing in for you. So I I don't know if you know the term opportunity cost. The opportunity cost, when you're looking at an investment or you're trying to figure out the ROI of something, the opportunity cost is what is the alternate that could have been done if you had not chosen to do this thing, and therefore what are you saying no to by saying yes to this, right? So if you look at opportunity costs, you begin to understand that every time that you're looking at money that's available to you, you have to be making the best decision of how to deploy that capital that's going to bring the best return for you. And perfect example, right now interest rates are near zero. So if you park money in a savings account, you're getting nothing, maybe a quarter, 0.5%. I don't know, maybe there's a bank out there that's paying 1 or 2%, maybe. So if you understand that that's going to basically be sitting there and probably losing value as it sits in the bank because the dollar, the power of the dollar decreases over time. It's called inflation. You want to look at other alternatives. That's why there's so many people who own stocks today that didn't own them 10 years ago, because they were able to earn interest in the bank. But now that they can't, they invest in a dividend-paying company that hopefully is going to just it doesn't have to gain in value, just doesn't have to go down, and they can get that percentage of dividend that it's paying out. For example, like AT&T, it's been at the $29 to $30 range for a long time, and it pays a dividend of 6%, 7%, depending on where it's at, right? So that's a decent return on your money when you can get zero in the savings account. Deployment of capital is really important to pay attention to. Now, when you're in a law firm, usually when you have extra cash, you can deploy it by just investing back into your law firm. But that depends on what your goals are. It depends on what you want to do. If you don't want to continue to grow your firm, then you got to bring that money home. You got to take that money out and you got to deploy it somewhere else. Now, it might be deployed personally. You might not invest it. You might just use it. Or you may invest it and get into real estate or the stock market or something else like that. The other thing is that when you have an inefficient deployment of capital, what that does is it increases your taxes. Because when you're not paying attention to taxes, you're also not making investments that are going to be tax efficient. You're also not making decisions that are going to control your taxes. And you have, when you make a lot of money, you have a big tax bill. But when you're smart with that money, you can effectively shelter a lot of that money from taxes by doing certain things with it. So when you have too much money, that could be a bad thing if you're not doing these things. Now, if you're paying attention and you understand these things, then you could be really smart with that money and you can make more money out of it. Then it's not a bad thing at all. So I went through these 5 things: leads, sales, staff, technology, money. There are definitely more. There's a lot more in your firm that can be done, that can be measured, that we can add to the list of electrolytes that need to be balanced in your firm. But the key message, the key takeaway that I want to share with you today that I hope you're going to walk away with is you need to have a way of measuring each of these things, and you need to know what's too little, what's too much, and what's healthy for where you are in your business. And hopefully this makes sense to you, and this was an enjoyable episode to listen to. I welcome your feedback. You can always shoot me an email, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, the platform of your choice. And if you enjoyed this and this is your first time listening to the show, hit that subscribe button. Love to have you back. Folks, we'll catch you on Thursday with a great interview. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for tuning into the Profit with Law podcast. Your feedback is extremely valuable to us, as well as helping us reach more people with this valuable content. Please leave us a rating and review in your favorite podcast directory. Join us again next time when we are back with even more strategies to profit with law.